Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation. This is part of a series that we do twice a year. This is our What's New in Liquidware Essentials. Before I go ahead and introduce our presenters and start off the presentation, I want to cover a bit of housekeeping. We are recording today's session, so if you are looking for a copy of the recording to watch for review, or maybe you wanted to share with someone that you knew couldn't make it, keep an eye in your inbox in the day or so following the event, and we'll make sure we get the link to the recording out to all of you for that. Also, if you have any questions or comments for either of our presenters today, please feel free to direct them via the chat and or Q&A window, and we'll do our best to get to everyone's questions at the end of today's presentation. So without much ado, I'm going to go ahead and welcome you to the What's New in Liquidware Essentials. Today we're joined by Jason E. Smith, our VP of Product Marketing, and Chris Walker, our Senior Solutions Architect and Stratusphere Subject Matter Expert, who are going to take us through today's presentation. Jason, I think you're going to start us off today.
Yes, thanks so much, Ray Swanson. And thank you to the audience. Many people that are listening today are current customers. And of course, Liquidware, more so than many vendors in this space, wouldn't exist without their customers. That's because we are funded through our business practices and not through venture capital. And we're proud of that because the innovation you see in our products ensure our company's success. And that's, refreshingly different. And so we're going to, in case there are new people on, and welcome if you are new to Liquidware, I'm going to describe what Liquidware is quick, and then we'll go through the products and let you know what's new. And we do this, as Ray said, twice a year, but we do this also to show you and showcase the innovation to make sure you don't miss it. If you're a current customer, that you always stay current on maintenance, so you have access to these latest features, and to also let you know if you're new to Liquidware, to ensure that we are the most innovative solution set, I believe, in this space, especially Adaptive Workspace Management. And you won't find another vendor with this type of suite, an Adaptive Workspace Management suite that picks up and helps you with every key integral phase of a desktop transformation. Whether you are looking to assess for desktops, you've got our solution Stratusphere can help you do that. And then to migrate to your next desktop, you have ProfileUnity that does actual migration. It will harvest the user profile and then populate a smart, streamlined user profile into your new environment, cross OS, if that's what you're doing, and cross platform, if that's what you're doing. For example, Citrix to VMware or to Amazon, or the other direction, or to Windows, Microsoft WVD. RDS doesn't matter, or to a physical desktop. It supports all of those. And so that flows with you for the user environment management. We also take care of user authored data, and we harvest that. And then we put in redirects for that per best practice from Microsoft. So we're actually doing the heavy lifting there and giving you a methodology to move from desktop to desktop. It's not just, providing you with information you need for your migration from Stratusphere, knowing what you have so you can prepare for that move and plan accordingly, but we actually do the heavy lifting to give you a methodology with our user environment management. And that's policy management in there. A lot of features you might not expect are included: privilege elevation, application rights management, and enterprise features that let you know what admins have logged in and what they've done. And then you can also give specific admin rights to only specific areas within our ProfileUnity solution. For example, an admin that only manages printers for an entire healthcare network, you can give them access to the printer management and the context-aware settings, and they can do their task without affecting policy management and other things. So it goes well beyond group policies in that regard, and it gives you what you need. Application layering from FlexApp obviously also makes applications follow the user. They're dynamic and they are attached at boot time, login time, or with our innovative click to layer technology. You won't find more ways to attach an application out in the industry. It also supports any application format, MSIXs, AppVs, and you'll see that we've introduced in this version that we've just released with ProfileUnity, extra functionality in that area. And then Stratusphere, I mentioned it for assessing, and knowing what you have, but also it is very integral in helping you know the user experience. You see it abbreviated Stratusphere. UX means user experience. Know that user experience from the legacy environment to the new environment to help you grow and scale those desktops, to see graphically where bottlenecks are occurring in your environment, even from an individual basis. Maybe it's a long login time, or maybe it's bandwidth issues for the entire infrastructure, and then allows you to drill down into those areas. And these solutions, all of them support any type of Windows desktop, virtual, cloud, or physical. And in the case of Stratusphere, we can monitor your Linux endpoints and thin clients as well. So again, most comprehensive suite out there that touches these points, and we call it Adaptive Workspace Management, adapting that workspace automatically every time the user logs in. So let's move straight to ProfileUnity and then FlexApp, and then Chris Walker will talk about what's new with Stratusphere. This is our current user interface. We actually shipped one revision past this week, and then you'll see the press release for it next week. We'll talk about what's new in that version in a second. This is what the current user interface looks like, with the ability to hide a couple of icons. I think in this release this week, we're actually hiding an icon or two, like profile cleanup. Sometimes we have features that start to be less used than the newer features, and so to keep the screen clean, we'll hide them. Otherwise, this is the current user interface. So if your user interface doesn't look anything similar to this, you need to upgrade to the latest version of ProfileUnity and FlexApp. What I have circled here is the most popular features that we believe that our user base uses. And not in the order that you see them here. This is the order. By the way, you ever wonder what these icons and why they're in this order? This is the order in which they're executed by ProfileUnity at login. Okay, so you would execute some security parameters first and apply FlexApps, and then bring your portability settings in, and that. So that's why they're in that order. If you've ever wondered why they're not in alphabetical order, that's why. So I'll talk about these in the most popular sets, and these numbers trimmed in red with the white are how many rule sets you have under each one of them. So in this configuration that we're getting a glance of, there's nothing configured under many of these, but we have 36 portability settings for our profile. It makes the profile portable between OS versions. It goes far beyond a profile disk or FSLogix approach. While we're compatible with those, this is a way to manage your profile where it immediately adapts to the operating system the user logging into. User never has to migrate when the portability feature set is leveraged. Now you can still use our profile disk. You can still use something simple like FSLogix profiles, but then the portability runs after it and gives you an adaptable profile. So it's the best of both worlds and the most comprehensive way you can do profile management. Now that we've spoken about profiles briefly, I want to recap why we even call this solution ProfileUnity. It's not because it's a profile only solution, it's full user environment management. It unifies everything that makes up the user's profile, not just the Windows profile, but policy management too. And so you see a lot of the icons here represent things to do for policy management that supersede group policies. And so it unifies all those things, including the management of user data. So where you see an icon like folder redirection here, we're not just redirecting the shell folder. We actually go beyond that, beyond group policies, and we can say, what do you want to do with the contents of a shell folder on a physical desktop, for example? Do you want that first login when ProfileUnity runs? Do you want to harvest that off with a smart sync and then redirect? So you can do those sorts of things with ProfileUnity, not just simple folder redirection, but again, preparing you for migration. The first time a user logs on and logs off and they've got portability activated, that profile is ready to go at the next login to the newest version of Windows, or backwards compatible as well. Folder redirection takes care of user author data, and it starts this folder redirection in the background. If you've got gigabytes of data, it's going to start moving to your file share that's DFS replicated as best practices at a minimum, or to your cloud sync, so you can redirect that also to a OneDrive area, for example, or a Dropbox area, and have it pick up the data from there. So the user has all the data they've ever created And these types of features set us apart. Registry management's another cool area, and it's beyond just merge, replace, or include a registry key. It goes to an HKLM level, not just the user level. Solutions out there in the market do the user level, but we also do an HKLM level. That gives you the ability to lock down desktops, just disable USB, save, for example, and other things that have to be done at a machine level to be secure. Okay, so ProfileUnity also secures your desktops in that way. Administrative templates will help you pick up anything out of group policies. If you want ProfileUnity to run it, we run it more efficiently. We do a lookup one time and we apply our policy management. So your overall, this is important, overall login time with ProfileUnity is what gets shortened by using ProfileUnity. It's not just the Windows profile, but it's policy management and it's everything else that you have going on, not everything, but most everything else you have going on at a user login makes that so much more efficient. So in terms of seeing a splash screen run for ProfileUnity, don't think it's just running just the profile. It's very efficient, but then it's doing all these other things. You have to measure your overall login time, and that's where we'll get you down, your organization down, oftentimes from minutes to under a minute, or oftentimes from many minutes to just a little over a minute. If it depends on what's going on, your mileage may vary, but we love login times that are 30 seconds or less. And we get many of our customers down to that. Again, your mileage may vary. Trigger points can ensure these things happen even during the user session. So you might be familiar with last write wins with profiles. Well, trigger points gives you the ability to also save back to the profile as soon as you close an application. So it minimizes last write wins. You won't get this with profile disk technology like our profile disk or FS Logics alone. There's still major last write wins issues which you're only using the FS Logic profile disk, or if you're using our profile disk. If you run those solutions with our portability, you can minimize last write wins on a rule set basis. Basically, if one of these rule sets, 36 in our have not changed, we'll do a delta differential and remediate those, okay? And that matters when you have multiple logins and things like that. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's a feature that we have in our profile disk that was already supported with portability. Let's talk about what's new in the last couple releases. First off, I'm going to recap what we introduced at the very beginning of this year, 2020, before we all knew. January 9th seems like so long ago, right? But before we all knew that 2020 was going to get a reputation for itself. We introduced that, and then we had an update on June 17th for an R2 version of 6.8.3. One of the things out of that was there was a couple features in R2, but it was also some bug fixes, and that's how it got an R2 name. Let's talk about comprehensively between these releases what was new. For FlexApp, AppV, MSIX, convert to FlexApp options are showing up now in the packaging console. And so you can take your AppVs, which Microsoft has all but called legacy now, and you can convert them to FlexApps, and you can enjoy us running them much quicker. Or not necessarily, yes, so oftentimes much quicker because they're going to run from disk at a block level, but also you get access to our context-aware filters. We add that to the MSIX as well. Yeah, it's a two-edged sword. You might want to leave them as AppV packages, quite frankly, because if you need isolation between OS versions, and that's why you chose AppV in the first place, then you want to leave those alone. But from Windows 7 and forward, the isolation is not needed as much in almost all cases. It was more of an XP to 7 thing. Most vendors' packages, as almost a rule, are compatible from Windows 7 forward. Again, your mileage may vary, your package may vary, but the need for isolation is much less than it used to be. MSIX, there's so limited ways that you can apply those to desktops. Our context-aware filters go well beyond that, so you can have us lay them down as a FlexApp and distribute them. So those give you extra options in addition to our FlexApp format. Enhanced Windows 10 multi-session support was introduced there. We already did it, but then we, in our configurations, made it where it's seamless and there's no extra things you have to do to support Windows 10 multi-session, and that was way back at the beginning of the year. FlexApp speed improvements happened, security hardening for the client, and some of that mattered to our federal accounts and others. And then in R2, that update that we had introduced VHDX support for FlexApp and Profile Disk, which we see as really the more modern way in almost all cases to deliver. So start thinking about VHDX, because sometimes VHDs are not going to be compatible with certain storage, or in some cases VHDXs are not compatible with certain storage that almost I hesitate to call legacy storage, but VHDX is going to be the preferred method going forward, although we still support VHDs. You get less corruption with VHDXs, and it's much more stable. Bug fixes, of course, I already told you out of that, and we updated the filter driver, and that gave us better speed, and then hourly billing for AWS. And then with the FlexApp packaging console, we're including a bunch of things that you would normally have to wait for them to install. So those are the updates that we had earlier in the year. And then this version just is now available on our website yesterday, and you're like, I hadn't heard that. That's because it just happened. And usually what we do, telling this private audience, is that we put them on our website, and then we wait a few days before we will put out a press release. Press releases in the world or in the industry are better are better on a Monday or Tuesday. They're better received, they get better distribution. So that's why sometimes you'll see, if you check our website a few days early, you'll see that the download's already there, but you haven't been told about it. So you'll see the press release next week. And this version introduces multi-session VHDs for profile disk, and then it helps us support the VHD feature in there too, when you're assigning VHDs to specific things too. This supports multiple login. So the use case is this. If you've got someone in a corporate environment and they logged into their physical desktop, and they have ProfileUnity managing that profile, and now they've logged into also the VDI environment, whether it's Desktop or Horizon, and then again they log into a RDP environment, RDS environment, and or Windows 10 multi-session on Azure or something like that, and they have multiple profile disks open. We support that scenario with profile disk now. We already supported that scenario with portability. We always did. Just to be very clear, we always supported multi-logins, but now we do it also with profile disk. There's a template also involved to set that up now that's included with this release. So you'll see a screenshot of that shortly, and I'll give you detail. And then we enhanced the UI in a couple areas to make it easier to navigate rule management and filter management from within when you're in the portability area, and when you're within the profile portability area, or you're anywhere that you need to see what's the context, what's the filter behind this rule. It's, in other words, it's almost like a pop-up in one screen without having to go click back and click forward. It's an ease of use thing. So that enhanced UI views, bug fixes, of course, always to make the quality of our solutions better, are there. And now we've launched a beta program for 6.885 that you can easily participate in if you wish. The FlexApp packaging console is now under a beta if you wish to try it out, to convert app Vs into FlexApps and MSIs into FlexApps. And we have a companion to that. FlexApp automation is now in beta too, and that allows you to this is a much awaited feature. So it's in beta. It allows you to basically automate the entire process of packaging up apps, and that's going to save you as customers and prospects tons of time in packaging. And we talk about packaging like it's a laborious thing. It's really not. With FlexApp, as a reminder, you can package an app in about the same amount of time it takes to install it. So if you're installing Photoshop and it takes you 15 minutes, that's about the time it takes you to package it. And there's no sequencing, things like that. It's very easy to do. But we've further reduced any barriers to entry by automating the process. This is what the packaging console looks like when we introduce here the beta feature of Convert App V and MSIX. Now into the Create tab, you have that, and you can create this. And this shows you how the process works. It converts a package, and you're able to check off the package files you wish converted, and then you hit go or hit the convert button, and it converts it, and it happens really in a matter, sometimes seconds, a minute or two, and it would convert that. User interface, ease of use enhancements that I mentioned in ProfileUnity. here we have where we had a portability setting rule. You can see it in the background here. We're editing the configuration. And you're like, okay, I see that I've got a context-aware filter here, but I don't remember what was in it because I did this months ago. The filter name is named Windows 10, but what's behind that? To know that in the UI, you had to click back to filter management, then you had to look up that filter, then you had to open that up. Now you can click this button and you'll get a pop-up. It's difficult to take a screenshot of this, so I had to layer the screenshot, but this is more or less what it looks like. You click on this and then you'll see exactly what's behind that filter. So there's no this click back, click back, and then click forward and then forget where you were. It's just a well-requested feature. Everything shows up in our solutions are requested by you guys in the audience here. So we take that feedback and we actually, that's how our products are developed. We develop our products based on request. That's why you'll find in our filter rules, for example, all kinds of scenarios that are going to nearly match anything you request of us, because over time those have gotten into the product. Same thing over here in editing the portability setting. In this case, to see the rule set behind a portability setting, which files and which registry keys, for example, are being picked up, you had to click back and look at it because you may have forgotten what this was. Now just hover here and click, and this will pop up and you'll be able to see what's behind it. Again, ease of use thing, and it's in there at the request of you guys. All right, remember I talked about this should say multi-session environments. Okay, this is a typo in here and I need to fix it, I guess, in the PowerPoint when we're done. Multi-session environments, a user logging into multi-sessions at once. This is where we have the template set up to have our portability run with Profile Disk. And so it's easy to configure out of the box. So it's a new template that's been set up to do that. And again, this screenshot I had to layer because it got truncated here, but you can fully see what it says here. And that's a new configuration that's available in this version. So multi-session, supporting multiple user logged into multiple places. Here's something I didn't mention in the bullets, but it's an update for ProfileUnity for the FlexApp area here, where when you go back in, you look at an inventory of all the FlexApps that you have in here, and our inventory features several things. In this case, we're looking at a view of the most popular way to use FlexApp, department installed apps, one-to-many. And if you want to see the disk path now and the package type, VHDX or VMDK or whatever, if it's hosted in the cloud, you can see that at a glance. These two columns have been added. There's been a few other UI changes, but these were the most and easiest to demonstrate here. So to let you know that those are in there, I believe that wraps us up for the updates for ProfileUnity and FlexApp. If you have questions specifically about this, you can put them in the chat window and I'll get to them at this point, probably at the end. But Chris Walker is a very talented SE for us. He's one of the leading Stratusphere UX SEs as far as knowledge goes. So he is well prepared to share with us what's new in the last couple versions of Stratusphere.
Yep, Jason, just a couple things more to mention on. I would recommend you read the release notes on ProfileUnity 6.8.4 because there's Jason showed you some of the highlights, but like even the packaging console. The packaging console now has the ability to capture scripts that are run in the scheduler, so the scheduled task. So like if you install Chrome and package Chrome in the past, Chrome had scheduled tasks that would restart its upgrade programs and stuff like that. So that's a double-edged sword there. We have added that capability as well as to edit the services. So the packaging console has some new features. Edit my services, run, turn them off, delay them, set the priority. And also the scheduled tasks. So be careful when you're capturing applications. Now in 6.8.4, you definitely want to bring them up in the editor. Make sure you look at what it's captured, because if it captured a Windows app schedule that's going to start back up the auto updater for Google Chrome, we didn't previously do that. But there are a lot of applications where we needed to capture that, so we've now enabled that capability in our product. But again, it's a double-edged sword. Make sure you open it in the editor. Make sure that you got the services in there and the scripts. Just one more use case for ProfileUnity that I've got is the cross-domain migration. I'm involved in a lot of customers that are through mergers and acquisitions. They're buying other companies and they're using ProfileUnity to do cross-domain migrations. Very powerful when I need to keep that user state, convert several thousand people, and I can't just flip off and turn off a hospital and say, you guys, everybody come back on Monday and hopefully we'll be done. ProfileUnity allows me to migrate those users across domains very effectively with very minimal downtime.
Yeah,
so,
you did that with a big healthcare organization in Florida, right? And maybe another one too.
Yep.
But
Yep, I got another one just starting up, hopefully next month, out in Louisiana, through some, another hospital with mergers and acquisitions. But extremely powerful. We used to talk about it, back years ago, but it is a still big use case in the environment.
Yep.
So now, Stratusphere UX. So 615 came out in June. This added a lot of work from home features. Looking at your Wi-Fi stats, better dashboards, what's going on the internet, who's my internet provider. So a lot of work from home stats came out in 615 earlier this year in June that our customers really loved, because guess what? I just sent 10,000 people home and I have no visibility into their infrastructure. So we're deploying Stratusphere into the DMZ so I can get users that aren't on the VPN. 615 was really helpful in that and getting those users visibility at their house. Productivity information, what applications are in the foreground, all of that came in 615. So in 615 and prior, let's see, did I get control, Jason, or just going to do next slide. So in 6.5, we've changed out the operating system. So this is what's called a side-by-side upgrade. So in version 6.15 and prior to that, we were running CentOS 6, version 8 database. So now in 6.15, to deal with operating systems getting discontinued and things like that, 6.5 is now CentOS 8 with a Postgres version 12. We've enhanced the APIs to make them run faster as well. So we're expecting some pretty good performance increases with a new operating system, more modern database, and some API enhancements to make the system more robust and faster from a user interface perspective. The new API Builder 2.0, which was actually available in beta in 6.15, is now GA. I'm going to show you a picture of that here in a minute. Very intuitive, allows me to save information, and then more work from home stuff. So machine CPU temperature. This is a big one asked for by customers. They had machines, certain manufacturer machines would go into power saving mode or basically CPU protection mode when it got hot. And the users were calling up and saying, hey, my machine's running really slow, and they couldn't figure out why. Well, now if I know the temperature of the CPU, I can actually diagnose that and say, you know what, I bet you got your machine sitting on a pillow, don't you? How did you know that? Well, because your CPU is 200 degrees. Take it off that pillow. It can't breathe. Battery temperature or battery charge. We announced this feature, so the charge level inside the battery on the laptop. When we announced this feature to our customers, the very next word out of their mouth was, can you tell me how many times it's been charged for charge cycles? Because that lets me go back to the manufacturer and say, hey, this laptop has this many charges and I need to replace the battery. So really good information about battery health. A whole section on machine health. So my firewall status, OS updates, is the credentials guard, device security, secure boot, what's activated, what's the virus protection, my anti-spyware. So machine health statistics are available in 615 to give me more information about this machine that's sitting at somebody's house. It's a physical device, but it has my confidential information in it. It's connecting to my VPN. Is the drive encrypted? I know I gave it to them. I know I gave them a document. I told them how to do it. Did they do it? This lets you guarantee that that device is fully protected out there in the field. More dashboards, so updated the dashboards and our advanced inspectors. Again, the APIs, the advanced inspectors are driven by the APIs. So again, some performance increases in there. ServiceNow integration came in with 615 in December. I'm hoping to release 1.2 of the ServiceNow integration kit. That allows me to pull in more data into ServiceNow as well. We're still doing a lot with Power BI, Splunk, and other ones as well. So using the API, it's pretty much unlimited as to what you can pull our data out and put it into your CMDB or whatever you're running inside that system. Next slide. API Builder 2.0. Notice the nice new pretty interface here. This thing allows me to do some really crazy stuff. So years ago, before the API came out, I was actually writing reports in Stratusphere, BERT report writer, talking to SQL queries, the whole 9 yards. Customers would call me up and say, hey, Chris, I need a report that shows me every time someone in accounting logged into my VDI pool. Here's the name of the pool. I need to know how many times they ran Excel, only Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 a.m., 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and only if they're running Excel.exe. Well, guess what? I'd have to write a complete custom report for that. With the API Builder, this allows me to do ad hoc reports on the fly. Store those reports. Now in the API Builder 2.0 on the left-hand side, you notice the favorites. I can actually store my APIs that I built, share them with other users, and allow them to manipulate them as well. But the click-through, the inspectors, the dashboards, the ability to better navigate the system, the API Builder 2.0 is much faster and allows me access to every metric inside of Stratusphere. If you're not using the API Builder for ad hoc reporting, my boss wants this data, this is how you can get it, and the API Builder 2.0 is extremely powerful to help you do that. Next slide. Okay, I got it. Login breakdown. This came out in login breakdown, one of the top applications or tabs inside of Stratusphere. Login process breakdown. This came out in 6.15 and has been upgraded more in the 6.5. But notice here where these where the arrows are. Prior to 6.1.5, we were only showing duration and the login timeline. Now I'm actually telling you the CPU load for that particular line. What was the load on the machine? So I've got here 2 CPUs, and this machine has 3. How many cores were used inside of it? So how much cores were available for me to actually run these processes in the login breakdown? So if I get to a line, I've got 2 CPUs and 1.5 cores is tied up just running to this point, I know I've only got half a core left. So even as efficient as my group policies and things may be, I'm using up too much CPU at this point. So tracking down how much CPU utilization, memory processes, IOPS that are caused by individual processes in the login breakdown. Again, a very capable module that it works across physical, virtual cloud, pretty much any Windows environment. This has been really popular with our customers. New work from home metrics. Some of these are in 6.15, but I wanted to highlight these again. External IP address. So this allows me to identify Jason Smith sitting in his house in Alpharetta, Georgia. He's on Comcast Business. So now I know his provider. I know his external IP address. People are taking that data and feeding it into Power BI, ServiceNow, and some other interfaces and building geo maps. So I can actually see now in Alpharetta, Georgia, and our development team that live in Alpharetta, Georgia, close to Jason, Comcast Business is having an outage. They're all red. So I can tell their latency has gone up dramatically, or they've completely disconnected. So I knew where Jason was, I knew who his provider was, and I'm building geo maps for my people to be able to better track outages. When they call up the help desk, I can tell them, look, it's not us. Your Comcast Business is out or experiencing high latency. Latency test by IP and name. We've actually used this in some really creative dashboards. A guy named Jack Smith has built some really creative dashboards to track Microsoft Office, OneDrive, SharePoint, and latency from the users to the Microsoft front doors. So I'm here in Atlanta. I'm hitting the front door that's in Virginia. My latency should be XYZ. Why is Chris Walker hitting the front door that's in Chicago. I got a routing problem. Why am I hitting this? That's too far. I should be hitting the front door that's in Virginia. And you can actually watch the latencies of those front doors from the individual users. So very powerful application level visibility for those cloud-based applications, Salesforce, things like that, that where you're hitting the cloud-based applications. Wi-Fi name and access point. This comes in handy to show off. I'm in a building, got a large manufacturing facility. It's called building number 1. That's the Wi-Fi ID, but there are 15 access points. I can tell you which access point that user is hitting, what level of encryption they're running, what speed they're running, what channel they're on, and how far they are away from the actual access point. So in my house, my router does all the major speeds, 5 gigahertz, 2.4, but I found that using Stratusphere, my 5 gigahertz kept, as I would move my laptop around to my office, to the kitchen, out back on the deck, my 5 gigahertz would drop and go up and down. So I locked myself down to 2.4 gigahertz, which goes through walls better, and was able to get a better signal inside of my system, more reliable. Trace route information, show me where the latency is in my network. VM type, so is it Amazon, Hyper-V, physical, virtual, so we're identifying the virtual machine type. OS particular build, we built a mapping table. What build of Windows 10 is this? Because there's like 20 of them out there. As I talked about earlier, machine health, firewall, antivirus, CPU temperature, OS updates, so more work from home metrics that help a lot more with physical machines than it would with a virtual machine. Here's a view just so if you're looking for it in 6.5, under UX diagnostics, battery health, the firewall, security, Windows updates. Just wanted to give you a quick hint where to find that because we do have a lot of data and a lot of tabs inside of Stratusphere. Just a quick picture of where to find this information. On the login breakdown tab, this actually came out in 6.1.5, but I wanted to highlight it because this is a very powerful view here. So here I'm on the login tab. I switched to look up by DC name, the domain controller name, and I'm doing a table view of domain overview. So this is a list of all the domain controllers that my users are hitting. I don't have an agent on the DC. This is how many users. So over here on the right-hand count, 7 login accounts for 6 users hit that top domain controller. This one down here, 8 login counts for 8 user IDs on 3 different machines and 16 abnormal events. So this helps me determine, hey, why is this one DC having a high DC discovery time? Maybe he needs to be rebooted. Why is this one domain controller having a lot of abnormal events? How many users are hitting each one of my domain controllers? Why are users hitting a domain controller in Canada? So prior to this, I had to drill down into each one of the login breakdown records. This is a really good overview, and you can build a dashboard of this too. Your AD team should love this because now I can see all the users hitting my domain controllers and what is their response times, what are their events, who's hitting what. A really good view. Please take advantage of this view. Wi-Fi statistics. So again, here looking at the signal strength, the distance to the access point. There are other views that you can turn in here with a basis to allow you to look at the security level that they're running, the encryption level, and even the frequency of the Wi-Fi at the user's house or in a large building. Trace route information, notice this top guy, Tom, he's on a FiOS Quantum Gateway. His provider is ComcastBusiness.net. There's his external IP address of his router. So again, taking this data, feeding it into a geo map externally, and I can see where Tom is in his environment and start mapping that back and determining, hey, is Comcast Business having a problem inside maybe in his state or in his town? Process optimization statistics. This is a new view. This allows me to look more if you have Process Optimizer. And we forget about this a lot because Stratusphere is a diagnostic tool. But as an interactive system, Process Optimization allows me to go in there and optimize those CPU hogs on a machine, the memory hogs, the applications that may allocate a gig of RAM and they don't really use it. So we can actually move that in small bits out to the page file. If the application needs it, it will request it and put it back in memory. Or CPU utilization. So imagine I'm watching a YouTube video, it's chewing up a lot of CPU in Chrome. Maybe I'm doing a training, so I'm doing my job, doing a training, but then I need to flip over to Word or Excel or something like that. Chrome is still sitting in the background crushing my processor. So my foreground applications are being hurt by this background process. Process optimization, if the machine, or more specifically the core, the CPU core is under duress, process optimization will kick in and lower the Chrome processes to below normal and change my foreground application to above normal. What this view here is telling me is it allows me to see how many times are these applications being affected by raising them and lowering their base priority. Maybe I need to tune them up. This version of Google Chrome was doing this. This new version of Google Chrome is doing this. I can compare different versions of it. But as we can see here, Google Chrome here, 21 different times that it was set to a lower priority by process optimization to allow that user to get better experience in that physical or virtual machine. My financial customers have said, hey, this has allowed me to extend the life of those devices because service packs that get updated in the middle of the day no longer crush the machine. We throttle those. So now they're getting an extra 6 to 18 months more life cycle out of those machines in the field, and that's a lot of money when you're talking about 40,000 users. So check out process optimization. Jason, you want to cover this?
Yep, this is something that we covered in the last couple of What's News, but it's still worth repeating, is that we've extended hours across Europe and Middle East Asia for basic support options for all customers worldwide. It basically covers then 24/7 support options remain available. So it's an added fee, but many of you have organizations that demand that round-the-clock support. Just know that's still available. Our satisfaction rating for support remedy of any trouble tickets that we open when you do call in remains very high. It's like 99% for the last 18 months running. And this goes back 6 months to a year ago, but we had increased our staff by 25%. And we remain at a bigger level than we were in years past as we grow. So we reinvest in our organization at many levels, and especially as support as well, to keep user satisfaction very high. But at this point, I want to bring Ray Swanson back on and see if we've had any questions come in during the presentation.
We definitely have had some questions, but we've also had quite a few people chiming in, yay, great ad, or that's a great new feature. So there was a lot of those coming in through different points of the presentation. So that's great to see the excitement out there. There are a few other questions though, and this one actually just came in a few minutes ago when Chris was talking about some of the work from home stuff. And the question is, if a user at home is connecting to our VDI desktop from a laptop at home, do they need a Stratusphere agent installed on the laptop for visibility?
For visibility of their Wi-Fi statistics, yes. But even the agent in VDI will track latency from that user. So, and be careful with this because you legally can't put an agent on my personal device. But if it's a company device, you have the full right to put an agent on it. So say that I'm hitting with my personal device, my MacBook, I'm hitting the Horizon system or the Citrix system, and I've got an agent in the cloud. That agent will track the latency of the protocol back to me and my house. But I won't have any statistics on the user at the house, Wi-Fi statistics, without that agent on the machine at that user's house.
We've had, so not only the PCs, but thin clients have been a popular item, especially from work from home, to send if there were thin clients, and some organizations bought them, or a thin client on a PC stick, executed. And so we have agents that will support Stratudesk, for example, as well as iGel. 10zig,
yep.
and we have a Linux client too that'll support anything else for the most part. But we have unique agents for those, and that's meant to help you track that first mile. So you're going to get more information from that endpoint if you can get an agent on it. But to Chris's point, you want to make sure that you own that device, usually for legal reasons, but that's going to be on your organization.
Yeah, but like with the iGel UD Pocket, 10zig has one too. You send me a USB device, I plug it into my personal computer. That way you don't have any access to my data, and it has a Stratusphere agent on it, and it still gets Wi-Fi statistics and traceroute and all that stuff too. When I unplug it, I'm back to using just my personal computer. So it's very powerful for those work from home users.
Yep.
Excellent. Let's see here. There was a question, and I think this goes back to ProfileUnity based on the timestamp of when it came in. Someone was talking about all these great features and wondering, do they all come in the base version of ProfileUnity? Are there multiple versions of ProfileUnity?
That's a great question. Everything's included. FlexApp's a premium a bit, but we always include it in almost every deal. So it's important that you ask your partner or sales rep for the latest pricing. But so FlexApp's treated a little special, but Privilege Elevation and all those other things, it's just one version. So it's very robust. So you can we've seen customers get rid of a lot of tools, and we hesitate to even call ProfileUnity or Stratusphere a tool because it does so much more than a point solution. And they get rid of a lot of little tools, a scripting engine that they're running, sometimes a profile tool that they're having to pay for, sometimes privilege elevation. You add those things up, Script Logic, for example, if any of you are still in Script Logic, you add those things up and your license costs are going to be nearly $200 in tools, and you can reduce that if you look at ProfileUnity. And if you're already a customer, you might want to consider streamlining as a way to save money and get more ROI out of your investment with us.
Excellent. Here, let's see. Someone asked, the latency metrics have helped us a lot with offshore resources coming into VDI and also work from home users experiencing jitter and jabber. So actually, this is a customer that I was talking about their experience. So that's great to hear that.
Helped a lot tracking down audio traffic. I'm on an Avaya system, got a user at his house with a soft phone. I can watch jitter on that system and diagnose, hey, we're going to send you a Verizon hotspot because your internet access at your house is just not reliable enough.
Excellent. Here's another question about Stratusphere. Someone asked, should we be concerned with updating to Stratusphere 6.5 with the recent announcement of let me see if I get this right, CentOS 8 end of life date being set to the end of 2021, while CentOS 7 support comes through 2024? I'm not quite sure about that one. Chris, I don't know if you have any info on that.
My understanding, so CentOS 6 support expired November of 2020, so last month. CentOS 8 should be the longer one. I'll check on that, but I thought we selected CentOS 8. We skipped CentOS 7 and went right to CentOS 8 for the longer support, but I'll have to check on those actually expiration dates.
Okay, excellent. Let's see, here's another one. That was a question, I think, for Stratusphere, and somebody was asking if you had support for Remedy.
Yes, well, at the end of the day, the ticketing systems can pull a REST API. So pretty much any ticketing system or Power BI or anything that can talk to, even Excel, can talk to a REST API. So if your Remedy ticketing system, you got the module that allow you to pull from a REST API, you can pull in our data right into your tickets. That is very powerful. I've done it with Splunk. We don't have any dedicated, integration with Splunk, but it can do a REST API as well. And that's really what I do. I've done for customers. I get on the phone with you. I show your Remedy ticketing guys how to use our API, and they say, okay, got it. So really, I just show them how to use our API builder. Then they know how to program it in Remedy, and they just start pulling data out and put it directly into your instances or your instance ticket information.
Okay, great. And someone asks, and this might have been before you covered it, Jason, but what app types can you handle with FlexApp?
Generally, any is the short answer, but we'll list a few. EXEs, any type of installer for the most part that Windows recognizes, MSI, MSIX, AppVs.
Yep. The key there is we don't want to do anything that messes with the kernel or the network. So if you've got a packet sniffer that reinitializes the network adapter upon layering, that would blow us out because it's reinitializing that NIC. I've had customers actually layer their virus protection software. Don't do that. So there's a big thing with layering technology. All of them, just because you can doesn't mean you should. At the end of the day, it's designed to make your life easier, but don't complicate your environment too much.
Yeah.
If everybody uses an application, it only updates every 6 months, bake it in the base image and be done with it. If it changes every 2 weeks, that's a good candidate for packaging.
Yeah.
But low-level kernel applications or .NET, C++ runtime libraries, generally you won't build into the base image.
Yeah. The more complicated the licensing enforcement, sometimes that's going to be the challenge, because for Office you have to have a KMS license server and all that. And by the way, most of the time, 100% of your users need Office, so that's something that we can't. To Chris's point, just because you can, should you? So Office recommendation is to leave it in a base image, if not the base image, and give it to all users, and update it when you do OS updates and patches and fixes, and treat that one that way, because of the complexities with the you'd have the license server and all that stuff. But yeah, a high compatibility list on the types of apps that we can do, CAD CAM no problem, things like that.
All right, so while we're on this topic, somebody asked, is there a way to deploy Microsoft Visio as a separate package, not bundled with the whole Office suite? They follow up and say we have a limited number of licenses and can't deploy to every desktop.
Yep, that's a good reason to layer Office. So when we went to Windows 10 versus Windows 7, in Windows 7 there was 2 different licensing engines. There's a licensing engine for the OS and a licensing engine for the application. So I could, in Windows 7, actually layer Visio. In Windows 10, there's one licensing service for the OS and the applications. So you cannot any longer layer Visio into that. So what I have customers doing is they'll package up Office Standard, Office plus Visio, and depending on the group that the user's in, we would attach that version of Office at login time. That is a good reason for licensing, school systems, things like that, where I need 3 or 4 different flavors and capabilities of Office. That is a good reason to layer Office. Works just fine.
Yeah, there's other ways to do that, and I'm going to volunteer information out there, separate and aside from our products too, is that you can restrict those. So Microsoft has done a better job in the last couple of years, and you can confirm this, but since they bought the FS Logics technology that also does app restrictions, we do that too. But you can restrict those. And the method that we're using is not unlike the FS Logics one, and Microsoft has been recognizing that more and more lately. So you can, if you set up an application restriction, you want to check to make sure, but there's a good chance you'd be in license compliance by handling that with application restrictions. In other words, it keeps the executable from running.
Yeah, so 3 things. You block visio.exe. You may even hide the shortcut or delete the shortcut off the desktop in the run menu, and then you change the file associations to the default Visio viewer. All of that can be done in the ProfileUnity console.
Okay. Somebody else asked, they had a question, and I think this is somebody maybe that has Essentials, and asked if they should update to the latest version of Stratusphere before migrating to the latest version of ProfileUnity, and asking if there's any pros or cons there.
Not really. They're independent products. I would say, based on which features you need, Stratusphere does have less impact. Excuse me, less impact on the users. Because if Stratusphere has a problem, it doesn't affect users. So it's really based, we're in the middle of December, a lot of customers in lockdown. So most of my Stratusphere upgrades were upgrading the infrastructure, but we're not upgrading the agents because they don't want to touch 10,000 users. So it depends on your lockdown capabilities or requirements as to which one you pick first. But at the end of the day, we don't care or prefer one or the other.
Okay, great. And then I think there was one more question on FlexApp, and someone was asking at what points can you have a FlexApp attached? Is it only the click to layer?
Yeah, no, I'll walk through those real quick again. So 3 methods: boot time, login time, and click to layer. And so why are there 3 methods, Jason? That's the thing we don't usually say. If you have a ton of apps, like over 20, and you need them for users and you need them quick, boot time is going to be the absolute fastest way to get them to the desktop. The users, they're going to appear there as soon as the user sees their desktop, and they're going to be there and attached. All right, so that's the quickest way. Now, the catch-22 out of that is that you have to apply those given only group policies, because it runs so soon before ProfileUnity engine runs that you're going to be limited to group policies. So if you can do that by username or group and things like that, that's going to be fine. So a lot of apps, but then you're limited with the context awareness to only group policies, boot time. Login time, you can get very finite about when the and who those apps apply to. And so that's login time, and those icons are going to come into the desktop as soon as the user sees the desktop. The icons are going to start appearing, and that's in a few seconds. Okay. Thirdly, if you don't want it, if you want it to have basically about 0 impact to the environment, you can put apps out there as click to layer. A stub icon appears on the desktop or in the menu. Basically, the icon to start the app appears wherever you've packaged it. If it's only in the start menu, that's where it'll be. I say on the desktop. It's a shortcut there too. So a stub icon will appear in those locations, and only when the user clicks on it will it be attached. In a multi-session environment like XenApp, for example, the first user that clicks on that app, it attaches to the server. But for a VDI session, it's the user. So it's almost like an app store. The app's not there; they think it's there, and until they click on it, and then it attaches, and you'll see the app attach in just a couple of seconds. There's a little thing that flashes down the right corner, and it's attached. And the reason why you use that is if you wanted to just put out another, maybe you had an enterprise license or it's open source apps, and you just want them there in case the user ever needs them. The rare chance they may ever need them, they're already there. They're not really there until they're there.
And then if you're a current customer, I would recommend getting a roadmap, because a lot of that stuff that Jason has changed is going to change in 6.5 in the middle of the year. Really cool stuff coming out. So get a roadmap presentation if you're a current customer from your sales team.
Excellent. Let's see. We've got another question here about FlexApp on triggers.
Yeah.
Jason, do you have any information?
So then you would do it. It would not be a boot time app, and it wouldn't be a click to layer. I don't think. It would attach the app given. So if you had an app that you wanted to open up alongside another, say Photoshop, as soon as the user clicks on Photoshop, you could put a trigger, say, if they use Photoshop, then also attach this app. And as soon as something happens in the UI, that's just one case, by the way. That's just one trigger point that we could execute on. App open, then attach another app. You could have that occur. You could also set an app to occur and pop up on the desktop by time of day, and that might mean between the hours of 9 and 5 for compliance reasons. There's an app on the desktop, but then you wouldn't want it to be on the desktop any other time. A better use case for that might be app restrictions. After 5 p.m., restrict this app and cannot be executed. So those are just a few examples. But trigger points in ProfileUnity occur when some environment thing changes, whether it's time of day or app open, app close, and there's a whole list of things.
All right, excellent. Well, we're coming up on the top of the hour here, so in the interest of everyone's time, anyone else that had a question in there, we will follow up and make sure you guys get answers to any questions. I think there's some more comments on here as we move on. Other places to get carry on this discussion and go from there are our community site, which is a great site here. You'll see a screenshot of that. That's community.liquidware.com. We encourage you to check that out. It's a place where a lot of our experts and other users connect and talk about things that they're running into in their environments and how to advance and do different things. It's a great place to share ideas and different things that you have going on there. Also, always check out our website, liquidware.com, and you can also find other customer success stories. I know there was a few that were discussed here from Jason and Chris, and you can see a lot of those on our section on customer success stories, which is liquidware.com/customers. So with that being said, thank you all for attending today's session. Thank you all for participating, and thank you to Jason and Chris for bringing us through today's presentation. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.